Premier ministre. Madame Normandin.
Oui. Alors, merci tout le monde. D'entrée de jeu, ce que je constate de ce que j'ai entendu aujourd'hui, c'est que la principale différence avec tout ce qu'il y a eu dans les dernières semaines, c'est un changement de ton. On n'est pas dans des nouvelles propositions, on n'est pas dans des actions concrètes, on est seulement dans un ton qui a été peut-être un peu plus durci, mais sans plus. Et à mon avis, c'est quelque chose qui aurait pu se faire déjà pendant la semaine, en point de presse, pendant la période des questions, en réponse à nos questions. Le ton aurait pu tranquillement durcir et ça aurait pu se faire de façon graduelle plutôt qu'aujourd'hui où finalement l'annonce principale, c'est qu'on repelte l'ensemble de la problématique dans la Cour des provinces en disant qu'on est un peu plus... qu'il semble ne pas y avoir de point d'entente pour une ouverture à la discussion. Donc, c'est ce que je constate aujourd'hui. Il me semble que cette annonce-là n'est qu'une version 2.0 de la déclaration ministérielle à laquelle on a eu le droit cette semaine.
D'accord. Y a-t-il des questions? Marc Godbout, Radio-Canada.
Madame Normandin, Marc Godbout, Radio-Canada. Madame Normandin, le premier ministre, vous l'avez possiblement entendu, a dit on est arrivé à la limite de ce qu'on pouvait faire. Qu'est-ce que vous feriez?
Déjà, nous, on a commencé en partant avec des propositions concrètes qui ne semblent pas avoir été appliquées. On a suggéré qu'il y ait un médiateur qui soit nommé. Est-ce qu'il y a même une offre qui a été faite pour la nomination de médiateur pour arriver à une ouverture de la discussion? On n'a pas cette information-là. On a suggéré que les Premières Nations et le premier ministre se parlent ensemble de nation à nation. Et ce qu'on constate, c'est qu'in extremis, juste avant le point de presse qu'il vient d'avoir, ce sont les ministres qui ont parlé au téléphone avec des chefs héréditaires plutôt que le premier ministre lui-même qui se soit dit « la situation est suffisamment grave pour que moi-même j'intervienne ». Ça faisait partie de nos propositions et il ne semble pas qu'il y ait de suite à ce que nous, on a mis sur la table.
Vous la voyez où, la limite? C'est-à-dire que, vous l'avez entendu tout à l'heure, le gouvernement dit, bon, on a été assez patient, les Canadiens, maintenant, veulent que les choses bougent, en gros. Mm-hmm. La limite, elle est où, là?
La limite au niveau de la patience des Canadiens, je pense qu'elle est déjà atteinte.
Oui, j'en conviens, mais mon point est le suivant, c'est-à-dire, je vais essayer d'être plus précis. La limite, là, à quel moment vous vous attendez à ce que ces chemins de fer-là soient pleinement opérationnels?
Je pense que c'est pas là-dessus qu'il faut mettre une limite, à savoir à quand les chemins de fer doivent être opérationnels. La limite aurait dû se faire à savoir quand il aurait dû y avoir des actions concrètes posées par le gouvernement, parce qu'on est en train d'abdiquer notre leadership dans ce dossier-là. Et j'imagine que la position du premier ministre aurait peut-être été plus tenable aujourd'hui s'il y avait eu ces actions concrètes-là que nous, on a demandées, à savoir notamment la nomination de médiateur et que le premier ministre lui-même s'offre pour rencontrer les Premières Nations, ce qui n'a pas été fait. Donc, à partir de là, il est difficile de mettre une limite à savoir quand est-ce que les barricades doivent tomber, puisque c'est la résultante d'actions qui auraient pu être prises au préalable et qui n'ont pas été prises.
Y a-t-il d'autres questions? Okay. Merci beaucoup.
Plaisir.
Hello and welcome to the National Press here. Bonjour et bienvenue au Théâtre National de la Presse. With us today we have Opposition Leader Andrew Scheer, who will be reacting to the Prime Minister's comments earlier today.
16 days into this crisis, more than 1,500 people have lost their jobs. Hundreds of millions of dollars in damage to Canada's economy, and the Prime Minister still has nothing concrete to say. He's tried asking the protesters to leave nicely. Now he's trying to ask them to leave forcefully. But Canadians need to understand that this is nothing more than an act. Justin Trudeau has caused this problem. He elevated these protests to the same level as efforts for reconciliation as recently as this Tuesday. And now he's finally realized that there are two different things at play here. Radical activists are misappropriating the reconciliation agenda to try and shut down our energy sector. Justin Trudeau has already taken force off the table. He has refused to use the authority that he has. Now he is relying on the goodwill of the protesters to take down the barricades. That's not leadership. This is nothing more than phony resolve. If there's any improvement in the coming days, it won't be because of him. C'est le sixième jour de la crise. Plus de 1 500 personnes ont perdu leur emploi. Des conséquences à hauteur de centaines de millions de dollars. Et le Premier ministre n'a toujours rien de concret à dire. Il a tenté de demander aux manifestants de partir d'eux-mêmes. Et maintenant, il leur demandé de quitter en levant le ton. Mais les Canadiens doivent comprendre que ce n'est pas sérieux. Justin Trudeau a créé ce problème. Il a mis les manifestants au même niveau que les efforts de réconciliation mardi, et aujourd'hui, il a finalement réalisé que ce sont deux choses différentes. Ce n'est pas du leadership. Ce n'est qu'une fausse prétention de vouloir agir. Si la situation s'améliore au cours des prochains jours, ce ne sera pas en raison de Justin Trudeau. Des activistes radicaux s'approprient l'agenda de la réconciliation et ils tentent d'anéantir notre secteur énergétique. Justin Trudeau a déjà dit qu'on ne pouvait pas utiliser la force. Il refuse d'utiliser l'autorité que lui confère sa fonction. Maintenant, il s'en remet au bon vouloir des manifestants pour démanteler ces barrages illégaux. Ça, c'est inacceptable. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Y a-t-il des questions? Are there any questions? Selena Cherchez, CBC.
Just trying to get at what you're saying, Mr. Scheer. So what would you like to have been done if the federal government cannot direct provincial police forces to use force?
Well, there are many areas where there are protests that are under the jurisdiction of the RCMP, and I believe that having that leadership shown at the federal level would certainly send the signal that the Prime Minister is serious about what he's saying, but it's quite clear that he's not. In fact, he's sent the opposite signal. For days, he's been basically telling these illegal protesters that he's taking the use of police forces off the table. He's basically been giving them a signal that they can act with impunity. He's also talked about offering concessions to people who are breaking the law. So as we've been making the point over the last few days, this is a very dangerous precedent to set. And as we face developments in the future as it relates to other energy projects, these protesters will continue to be emboldened as they pursue their anti-free market, anti-energy development agenda.
Are you saying it's not worth it to take some time to try to have a dialogue with hereditary chiefs, with Indigenous peoples over issues that are really important to them?
Well, I'll say a few things on that. First of all, when you say take some time, I'm thinking about the people who were affected by the amount of time that it has been taking. We're into our third week. People are losing their jobs. They're not going to be able to go to their mortgage holder, their bank, and say, sorry, I just need some time to pay my mortgage, or tell their credit card company, might not be able to pay my bill this month because the Prime Minister's taking some time. That's not going to work for them. when we talk about dialogue, dialogue is always a good thing, especially as it relates with Indigenous communities and First Nations leaders who are looking for a path forward on reconciliation. But let's be very clear, as recently as Tuesday, the Prime Minister was elevating these protesters as defending their community. His speech in the House of Commons on Tuesday talked about understanding the protester defending his community in the cold. I made the point on Tuesday that these protests are about two different things, that many of these protesters have co-opted the Indigenous agenda as a way to advance their anti-free market, anti-development message. And that got me disqualified from a meeting. So you'll pardon me if I don't believe the Prime Minister, if I don't take him at his word today that he's showing any kind of resolve on this.
You said if we're only two meetings.
So again, Mr. Scheer, what exactly would you do?
Well, as I said on Tuesday, first and foremost, I would never have emboldened the protesters by elevating them to the same level as Indigenous communities or Indigenous leaders who are seeking a path forward on reconciliation. I would have made the point that these are two distinct, separate things. I would have understood and recognized the fact that the Wet'suwet'en people support this project, that the 20 First Nations communities along the route of this project support the Coastal GasLink and understand the benefits that it will bring to their communities. And I would have absolutely used Section 5 of the RCMP Act to give direction to the RCMP in a general way. And let me be clear here, there's a lot of misrepresentation, and Justin Trudeau is trying to mix two different things together as justification for his inaction. Nobody is talking about giving operational direction. Nobody is talking about telling the RCMP to arrest this person or use this tactic or that tactic. But it is entirely appropriate for the government to issue general direction, for example, to keep critical infrastructure clear or to enforce and uphold court injunctions, especially, as I said, we're entering into our third week of this crisis. I believe that kind of leadership and that signal to police forces, both federal and local, that our government, that the government of Canada would stand by the police as they upheld the rule of law, absolutely could have changed the situation that we find ourselves in today.
At least one of the major roadblocks, blockades, is in Ontario. How would the Prime Minister of Canada have jurisdiction over the Ontario police, and how exactly would your schema work then?
Well, you are correct in pointing out that there are different blockades in different jurisdictions, and not all of them fall under the jurisdiction of the RCMP. What we're talking about is where the federal government has the ability to act under Section 5 of the RCMP Act. That would have shown leadership on this file, and it would have set the framework, and it certainly would have provided the kind of leadership that perhaps other levels of police forces in other jurisdictions would have followed. By sending the signal so early on that the Prime Minister didn't want any kind of police involvement, didn't want any kind of utilization of police authority, I believe obviously has emboldened the protesters and is part of the reason why we've seen more protests today, more blockades today than there were at the beginning of this situation. If Justin Trudeau feels that there are jurisdictional issues or authority issues that he does not have the tools that he needs at his disposal, he can certainly come to Parliament and ask for them, and we'd be willing to sit down and listen to what his proposals are. But to date, all we've heard are platitudes, mixed messages, contradictory messages, and so again, you'll pardon me if I don't take him at his word today.
Marc Godbout, Radio-Canada.
Monsieur Scheer, vous répétez que Monsieur Trudeau refuse d'utiliser l'autorité qu'il a dans ce dossier-là. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez dire concrètement par autorité?
Section 5 de la loi pour le GRC donne le ministre l'autorité de donner les directions pour le GRC. Et il était utilisé dans le passé pour assurer que les priorités, quand on parle de le GRC, les priorités, les cibles que le gouvernement veut cibler, les choses opérationnelles, pas opérationnelles, mais les choses en matière générale, cette section a été utilisée. Même le ministre Blair a dit que le gouvernement libéral actuel a utilisé cette section.
Mais M. Scheer, vous n'êtes pas sans savoir qu'en Colombie-Britannique, la GRC joue un rôle de police provinciale et donc ne relève pas directement du gouvernement fédéral, Même chose pour ce qui est de l'OPP en Ontario, vous savez très bien. Alors, c'est quoi la solution? Est-ce que la solution, c'est, à votre avis, d'envoyer l'armée? Est-ce que vous seriez prêt à envoyer l'armée si vous étiez premier ministre dans un cas comme celui-là?
Alors, je vis en Saskatchewan où c'est la même chose. Nous avons le GRC dans la région rurale. Et c'est vrai que le gouvernement provincial utilise le GRC et a un rôle de jouer. Mais la loi sur le GRC est très, très claire. Le ministre fédéral a l'autorité finale sur le commissaire de la GRC. Et la question, la deuxième partie de votre question, peut-être on peut essayer avec les polices locales, avant d'en parler de les augmentations de la force comme la force armée canadienne, peut-être on peut commencer avec les polices locales, le GRC, d'enforcer la loi, d'assurer que les décisions de la Cour sont suivies. So, I believe we should start with the RCMP, start with local police. I believe there are dozens of examples, lots of examples in the past of the RCMP or local police dealing with these types of protests in a way that does not escalate violence, that is resolved peacefully. And I think conjuring up images of the armed forces or previous tragedies in Canadian history as an excuse for inaction is not acceptable.
So are you saying you think that there is a role for the armed forces to play
No,
if the local authorities do not get an end to a blockade?
What I'm saying is there are lots of examples in recent history where local police or the RCMP have dealt with these types of situations in a non-violent way that doesn't escalate to violence or any kind of grievous harm. And I think that to conjure up images of tragedies that have happened in the past, or to bring in extreme examples of calling in the armed forces. I know many Liberals were trying to mischaracterize what we've been talking about. I think that's to do those things as an excuse for inaction is completely unacceptable on the part of the government.
The armed forces are an option that should be on the table if needed in this case.
I don't believe we need to be having conversations about the use of the armed forces. I think the RCMP have shown that they are quite capable of dealing with these types of things, local police as well.
What you're saying about Section 5 and the RCMP, the issue at play is under the jurisdiction of the OPP. So how is that possibly a solution to be using Section 5 to direct the RCMP in this particular case?
Well, you are right that some of the issues that we're talking about today do...
that stops the rail surface is under the OPP's jurisdiction.
That is true in this case, but let's also remember that there are blockades in other jurisdictions that are also affecting our economy, that are also affecting the economic well-being of many, many Canadians, including the advancement of the Coastal GasLink project, which will bring billions of dollars worth of investment to British Columbia, create jobs all across the country, including on the 20 First Nations that have signed on to these agreements. So I believe that by early on in this crisis, showing that kind of leadership, saying where the federal government has authority, where the RCMP are the police force responding to these types of illegal blockages, showing that leadership that they would uphold the rule of law and enforce court injunctions would absolutely have sent a signal to other police forces that the federal government would support the police in the work that they were doing. And by taking that off the table so early on is a signal to the protesters that this government is not actually serious, that it will not actually see this through to the end. So again, if there are jurisdictional issues to deal with this crisis, as we see, millions of dollars worth of damage a day, job layoffs. If the government feels they need additional tools to make sure that they can make sure that the law is being upheld in places like Belleville, we welcome them to come to Parliament to sit down with us and ask for the types of tools that they would need. The fact that they haven't, the fact that all we've seen from Justin Trudeau is words and platitudes. Look at what he said on Tuesday. Look at his speech on Tuesday. His nothing speech, like his word salad speech, his Seinfeld speech, a speech about nothing. He said nothing. He had nothing but platitudes. He talked about people who are breaking the law, who are anti-free market, anti-energy development, and he elevated them to the same level as Indigenous leaders who have been fighting for reconciliation and fighting to right the wrongs of Canadian history. He put them on the same level. He talked about the protesters defending their community in the cold. 4,400 kilometers away from the Wet'suwet'en First Nation, a First Nation that actually supports the project, that wants to see it built, that wants to see the jobs and investment flow into their community. So when he talks about, dialogue with Indigenous Canadians who are fighting for the communities affected by Coastal GasLink support the project. And it's very, very frustrating. I feel so much sympathy for the 1,500 people this week who have lost their jobs because of Justin Trudeau's inaction. And I'm worried about what's going to happen in the future. And I'm also extremely worried about the message that this is sending as it relates to projects in the future. When protesters and these radical activists know that the Prime Minister will ultimately do nothing but offer concessions and offer to grant privileged access and to talk about concessions to the protesters, what that will mean when we're talking about tech frontier and when we're talking about future energy projects. So this is this inaction, this weakness is sending all the wrong signals, and it's causing a lot of damage to our economy.
Jim Bronskill, Canadian Press.
Minister Blair and some legal experts say using Section 5 of the RCMP Act would be tantamount to interfering with the police operations and undermine police independence. What do you say to that?
Well, obviously Minister Blair is going to try to excuse his inaction. There are examples under his government where Section 5 has been used. And again, nobody is talking about picking up the phone and telling the RCMP to arrest this person or that person, or to enforce the law this way or that way. But it is entirely appropriate and at this point very necessary that direction be given to, for example, keep critical infrastructure projects clear and to uphold court injunctions. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
We'll be reacting to the Prime Minister's comments earlier today. Ms. Blaney?
Thank you, everyone. First of all, I just want to say that of utmost importance to the NDP and to myself is, as we go through this challenging time in Canada, that we remember that safety has to be at the core. When we go through conflict, there can be a lot of feelings, and right now I think we all see that across our country. We need to assure that everyone is safe, and I encourage all of us to remember we are community members, we are a country together, and let's be safe. And right now, we're in this situation because our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, did not do what he should have done, which is provide leadership. In fact, what we're seeing today is a complete failure of leadership. You know, when I look at what I've just seen today, Trudeau could have saved us all a little bit of time and just sent Andrew Scheer out here to do this press release for him. I have sat in the House of Commons now for several years and listened to the Prime Minister stand up again and again and tell Canadians there is no more important relationship than the one that we have with Indigenous people. The reality is he has not followed that up with concrete action. People across this country are concerned. And the Prime Minister had an opportunity a long time ago to take real leadership and de-escalate the situation. Instead, he said today that the onus is on Indigenous people in this country to resolve this issue and smooth things over. That is both dangerous and irresponsible. In fact, it's outrageous from someone who has refused to meet with hereditary chiefs. Today I heard the Prime Minister say, we've been working on this for the past 2 weeks with concrete action. I just can't say anything else except for to acknowledge that by only spending such a short amount of time on this issue, that's why we're in the situation we are today. We've watched the Prime Minister travel all over the world while this situation escalated, and now he's back and he's decided, without meeting the chiefs, that there is no space for dialogue. So I just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that there are thousands of workers and their families that are facing job losses and people who are worried how they're going to make ends meet. Farmers, producers, business owners, and community leaders are worried about the uncertainty in supply chain. This is a crisis. It's a huge crisis in our country, and Justin Trudeau is denying any responsibility. So when we look at this issue, it's been very clear. The NDP has called repeatedly for the Prime Minister to, 1, meet with hereditary chiefs, 2, to appoint a mediator to help support the process, and 3, for the RCMP to stand down and to remove themselves from the Wet'suwet'en territory. He has broken his promises with his refusal to act, and he was the first to say this is not a federal responsibility, this is up to the provinces. Now today he's saying it's up to the Indigenous leadership. So I just hope that as we move forward, that we see that there is a process happening. The BC government and the Wet'suwet'en have been having discussions and they have been having dialogue. We need the federal government and our Prime Minister to step up to the plate and do his job. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Y a-t-il des questions? Are there any questions? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Vous
Sorry,
parlez
Mark.
français ou
English only, but I can.
English? Just trying to figure out what that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions? Thank you very much.